In the quiet of a Tennessee evening, under a sky heavy with stars, my mailbox stood like a silent sentinel at the edge of my 2-acre property. It wasn't just any mailbox, it was a piece of my heart, hand-painted with vibrant tulips by my late wife, Emily, before cancer stole her from me 3 years ago. I'm Nathan Hayes, a 47-year-old former Navy engineer turned metalworker, living on the outskirts of Willow Creek, a small town that used to feel like home. Every morning, I'd walk out to that mailbox, run my fingers over Emily's tulips, and whisper, "Morning, darling." Another day in our little paradise. My hound, Daisy, would nudge my leg, her tail wagging like she knew the ritual kept Emily's memory alive. It was simple, it was sacred, and it was all I had left of the life we'd planned when I came back from my last deployment in Iraq. But in the spring of 2024, that peace shattered when a woman named Vanessa Reed, clipboard in hand and a smile as fake as a $3 bill, walked up my gravel driveway and turned my grief into a battlefield. Vanessa showed up on a crisp April morning, her high heels sinking into the dirt as she strutted toward my workshop in a suit that screamed corporate ambition. I was welding a new gate for Emily's memorial garden, sparks flying, when she tapped her pen against her clipboard and introduced herself as the president of the Green Hills Homeowners Association. "Mr. Hayes, we need to discuss a community enhancement opportunity," she said, holding up her phone like she was filming a reality show. "I'm documenting this for our records." Green Hills was the fancy name developers slapped on our rural stretch of Carter Road 6 years ago when they started turning farmland into luxury estates. Vanessa explained that Crestview Properties wanted my corner lot for a 15-unit condo complex, offering $350,000, a generous sum, she called it, for a plot that held my entire world. I pushed up my welding mask and told her flat out, "This land's not for sale. Emily and I built our life here." Her smile tightened like a vice. "Mr. Hayes, sentiment is sweet, but we're talking about progress for the community. That rustic mailbox of yours, for instance, doesn't fit our upscale vision." She pointed at Emily's tulips like they were trash. I felt my blood heat. "That's my wife's work," I said, sharper than I meant. "It stays." That's when things got ugly. Vanessa's smile vanished, and 2 men stepped out of a black SUV I hadn't noticed pulling up. The first, Greg Walsh, was decked out like a wannabe mercenary tactical vest, cargo pants, mirrored shades. The second, Carl Bennett, older and calmer, had the swagger of a retired cop. "Is this resident cooperating?" Greg asked, his voice dripping with fake authority. Vanessa briefed them like they were FBI. "Mr. Hayes is resistant to our neighborhood improvement plan." Carl started snapping photos of my mailbox, rattling off nonsense about non-compliant postal fixtures and vehicular hazards. I called their bluff, asking for credentials and specific violations. Greg's confidence flickered, but Vanessa handed me a folder stuffed with legal jargon and a fine schedule $600 a week for keeping Emily's mailbox. As their SUV peeled out, Daisy growled, and I knew I wasn't dealing with neighbors. I was dealing with predators. The harassment kicked off the next week and didn't let up. Greg accidentally clipped my mailbox with his truck during a so-called security patrol, scratching Emily's tulips. The week after, Carl showed up for a safety inspection, his too-tight vest making him look like a mall cop who'd hit the surplus store. He backed his truck into the mailbox, denting it and cracking the post. By week 3, they got bold, spraying herbicide on Emily's garden, killing her beloved roses. I watched those petals wilt and felt something break inside me. Week 4, I fought back, setting up a security camera in my workshop window. I caught Greg practicing some kind of stunt driver move, getting his truck stuck in the mud while trying to ram the mailbox. Week 5, they teamed up. Carl distracted me with fake property line questions while Greg tried to pry the post loose with a crowbar. My neighbor, Mrs. Ellison, a 72-year-old firebrand, called them out from her porch, threatening to call the real police. By week 6, Carl drove a borrowed delivery truck straight into the mailbox at 20 miles an hour. The post snapped, the box flew, and Emily's tulips were scraped to ruin. Kneeling in the wreckage, I made a promise to Emily's memory. These bullies had picked the wrong fight. I called the sheriff's office that evening. Deputy Mark Lawson, a grizzled veteran with 25 years on the force, came out to take my statement. "Nathan, these guys aren't cops anymore," he said, eyeing the broken mailbox. Greg was fired from Knoxville PD for misconduct. Carl retired under a cloud, something about missing evidence. They're working for Vanessa, who's been strong-arming folks for Crestview Properties. He told me to keep documenting everything and handed me his card. That night, I dove into public records and found a pattern. Vanessa had forced out 4 families, buying their land at rock-bottom prices. She thought I'd be another easy mark, a grieving widower who'd cave. She didn't know Navy engineers don't quit, they build. Grief does something to you. It strips away the niceties and leaves you raw, ready to fight for what matters. I spent 3 days studying postal regulations and building codes, then designed the Emily Special, a mailbox that looked like the original but hid a steel core welded to a concrete base buried 4 feet deep. It was a fortress disguised as sentiment. Painting those tulips again, matching Emily's colors, felt like bringing her back for a moment. Daisy sat by, sniffing the progress, as I worked through the night. 3 days later, Greg showed up for another inspection, circling the mailbox like it was a crime scene. I sipped coffee on my porch, asking, "Which department issued your badge again?" His hesitation told me everything. Then Carl pulled up, and without warning, backed his truck into the mailbox at 15 miles an hour. The crash was glorious. His bumper crumpled, his tailgate twisted, and the mailbox didn't budge. Mrs. Ellison cheered from her porch, yelling, "Want me to call that a hit and run?" Carl's face was a mix of shock and panic as he surveyed the wreckage of his truck. Vanessa didn't stop. Her social media posts grew frantic, ranting about dangerous residents and community safety threats. One post buried a bombshell. Subject requires enhanced monitoring and intervention. She was planning something bigger. That's when the neighborhood stepped up. Jake Ellison, Mrs. Ellison's 16-year-old grandson, started a group chat called Operation Tulip Defense. 8 households signed on, setting up cameras and coordinating like a small army. Mrs. Ellison brought coffee and sandwiches, turning our stakeout into a community potluck. I built a decoy mailbox, shoddy looking, begging to be smashed, but reinforced to ruin any vehicle. The real mailbox, hidden behind my garden fence, kept the mail flowing, safe, and regulation compliant. Vanessa's final post came on a Thursday night in November 2024, a 900-word screed about night shift protocols and threat neutralization. She'd lost it, broadcasting her plans to the world. Jake caught it and rallied our team. At 2:47 a.m. on Friday, Greg rolled up in his truck, decked out in full tactical gear, night vision, face mask, the works. Vanessa followed, live streaming and narrating like she was starring in a crime drama. "This is Vanessa Reed, HOA president, documenting a security operation," she said, oblivious to the 6 neighbor cameras rolling. Greg gunned his engine and slammed into the decoy at 30 miles an hour. The truck's front end collapsed, the airbag trapped him, and the horn blared like a siren. Vanessa screamed, "You hit the wrong one. The real mailbox is over there." Greg, pinned and panicking, yelled, "This was your plan, Vanessa. You paid us to harass him." Carl, trying to free Greg, shouted, "You never said there were 2 mailboxes." Their confessions echoed through the night, captured on every phone. Neighbors poured out, filming in pajamas. Jake's sister live-streamed to a group chat that grew to 40 people in minutes. Mrs. Ellison set up chairs like it was a block party. Deputy Lawson arrived at 3:10 a.m., his cruiser's lights cutting through the chaos. "Dispatch, I need backup, a tow truck, and the FBI," he said, surveying the scene. Vanessa's live stream, meant to frame me, became Exhibit A: conspiracy, impersonation, civil rights violations. The footage showed her directing Greg and Carl, discussing evidence disposal, and admitting to developer payoffs. Lawson's body cam and our 60-plus civilian recordings sealed their fate. The fallout was seismic. The FBI linked Vanessa's scheme to a multi-state racketeering network, forcing 230 families from their homes for $5.2 million in illegal profits. Greg pleaded guilty to impersonation and conspiracy, getting 40 months in prison. Carl took 32 months and crippling restitution. Vanessa fought but folded under the weight of her own recorded confessions: 28 months, probation, and a lifetime HOA ban. Crestview Properties collapsed, 19 people charged. Our neighborhood became a symbol of resistance. Property values soared 15%, and we replaced the HOA with a resident council led by Mrs. Ellison. I started a security business, Hayes Fortified Designs, building mailboxes that could stop a tank. Emily's garden became a community haven with a bench inscribed, "For Emily Hayes," whose love built a stronger neighborhood. Every morning, I still greet Emily at the mailbox, but now I'm joined by neighbors Mrs. Ellison watering tulips, Jake checking college emails, kids playing nearby. Vanessa thought she could break me, but her obsession with control handed us the evidence to destroy her empire. Sometimes, the best revenge is letting your enemies bury themselves. What do you think Lawson saw in those recordings that made him call the FBI so fast? Could there be more to Vanessa's network than we knew? And would you risk everything to protect a memory like I did? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if this got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more stories where justice fights back.